This is why you always put a towel on the handle in your hotel before you sleep. But I'm curious, what would you do in this situation? What the is that? Did he humble the over death? I'm really crying for help.
It's just a cigarette, and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me? And you know it makes me sad.
It's just a cigarette, like you always used to do.
I was different then. I don't need them to be cool.
The Great Wall of China is much longer than you probably think. And just to have a better reference, the Great Wall is long enough to span the distance between New York and London, then from London to Moscow, and in the end, all the way to Beijing, and there will still be around 7,000 kilometers to cover. Its total length is around 21,000 kilometers, which is more than half of Earth's circumference. Construction of the Great Wall lasted for more than 2,000 years, from the Spring and Autumn period to the end of the Ming Dynasty.
Interesting facts that you may not know. The creature that possesses the most magical superpowers on the planet is the Mexican salamander. This animal can regenerate almost all of its body parts, such as their jaws, skin, spinal cord, and even their brains are no exception. Even more surprising is that the limbs can regenerate themselves up to more than 100 times without leaving any scars on the skin. The Mexican salamander's ability to regenerate itself is so amazing that it can heal previously damaged spinal cords by creating new connections between nerves, even if they are amputated. A part of the brain, they can completely regenerate themselves as if they have never lost their brain. More specifically, the ability of this organism to fight cancer is 1,000 times more effective than that of mammals. And unlike humans, the Mexican breed can completely accept transplanted organs from a fellow human. There is no elimination from the body at all. Realizing the potential of this organism, scientists are constantly researching and trying to copy their superpowers to apply to the human body in the future.
Have you ever wondered why there's a single red seat in Fenway Park? The chair marks the 502-foot home run hit by baseball legend Ted Williams, who actually became more well-known after his death. But why is that? You see, when Williams passed away on July 5th, 2002, his body was loaded onto a private jet and taken to Scottsdale, Arizona. More specifically, the Alcor Life Extension Foundation. His head was separated from his body in a procedure called neuroseparation, and both were preserved in liquid nitrogen. But is this what he actually wanted? In his will, which was written years before his death, he stated he wanted to be cremated and his ashes scattered throughout the Florida Keys. But his son and his youngest daughter had different plans, which didn't make his oldest daughter very happy. When eldest daughter Bobby Joe tried to sue them in court for what they did to their father's body, it didn't go quite as planned. Their lawyer presented a family pact that was scribbled down on a napkin, which was signed by John Henry, Claudia, and Ted while he was still alive. The napkin note was post-dated earlier than the will, and Bobby Joe had to drop her lawsuit. And now baseball legend Ted Williams is cryogenically frozen.
This is an exaggerated visual representation of how tides work on Earth. It's simple really, but this animation is just really cool. So as the moon orbits the Earth, its gravity is so strong that it physically pulls Earth's bodies of water towards it, resulting in high tide and low tide, just as you see here, which could mean meters of difference in water depending on what time of day it is. It's so strong in fact that it could virtually fill up an entire lake just because the moon said so.
Have you ever wondered how people in the Middle Ages slept at night? Believe it or not, they actually slept twice, known as the two-phase or biphasic sleep. They would go to bed around 9 p.m. and then wake up at 11 p.m. For around 2 hours, they would work, whether that be at home or on the farm. This was also their time to socialize and even conceive children. You see, they weren't doing the hibbity-dibbity when the kids went to bed, as it was typical for families to share beds. It was common for family, friends, and even traveling strangers to all cram into one bed. To combat awkwardness, physical touch and excessive moving were frowned upon.
Countries that no longer exist. Czechoslovakia was a country created in 1918 when it declared its independence from Austria-Hungary. Its capital was located in Prague. On January 1, 1993, Czechoslovakia was split into two independent states, Czech Republic and Slovakia. This peaceful separation was called the Velvet Divorce.
It's true, time gets faster as we age. This graph shows how we perceive time as we get older. According to this, we experience over 70% of our perceived life by the time we turn 21, with everything until age 5 comprising almost 50% of our whole lives. So why doesn't it feel like turning 5 was the halfway point of our life so far? Well, first of all, we don't start forming stable memories until about age 3 to 4, so those years have been pretty much wiped clean. Secondly, as we age, each additional year becomes a smaller and smaller percentage of how many years we've lived so far. So each year that goes by becomes a smaller and smaller sliver of our total lives. For example, at age 50, an entire year is just 2% of your total life. Meanwhile, back when you were 10, 2% of your life was only about 2.5 months. So technically, 2.5 months to a 10-year-old should feel about the same as an entire year would to a 50-year-old. Time doesn't actually move faster as you age. Your brain just has limited storage space. About 2,500 terabytes to be exact, which seems like a lot, but it actually fills up pretty quick considering that we're basically recording a never-ending video into our memories in 16K or whatever resolution reality is. And each year, your brain needs to choose which memories to delete in order to make room for new ones. Meaning, as we age, we slowly forget the most significant memories of our lives, making us feel like we got to where we are today faster than we actually did. While every additional year that goes by feels like a less and less significant portion of our total timeline, causing life to zip by at supersonic speed by the time we hit like 30. Curious to know, what age is your earliest memory from?
If I hold it like this and I let it go, what will happen? It will drop. Why? Gravity. Boring. We start spinning it. Ready? I drop it. And it stays.
No, what?
What's happening? What's happening? It's a gyroscope now. It is spinning and it is precessing like our planet.
Saying to pull the trigger that kills your son, now it masturbates to memory.
You just gave me 40 years. Sir? Yes. You just gave me 40 years. Well, guess what? Sir, what's this? Yeah,
This is Jaleel Smith Riley, who is facing charges for murder in Michigan. Smith Riley was involved in an armed robbery on November 16, 2013, in Norwood, where he and two other men approached a parked car. Inside the parked car was 20-year-old Portia Brooks and her boyfriend, Aaron Martin. Smith Riley knocked on the window with a handgun and forced Martin, who was in the passenger seat, out of the car. Jaleel then proceeded to go through Aaron's pockets and demanded his cash. Once Jaleel had taken every dollar Aaron had, he then took his life with a shot to the head, causing permanent brain damage. However, Jaleel wasn't done there. Right after shooting Aaron, he then leaned into the car and fired at Brooks, who was sitting in the car, twice. And she died 3 days later. Fortunately, Martin survived the shooting, but sustained serious injury. Before the judge announced the sentence that Jaleel would be facing, Portia's family got the chance to address the jury and the man who took their daughter away from them. Sharon Brooks, Portia's mother, brought the box containing her daughter's ashes to the courtroom, as she had for previous court dates. She stated that Smith Riley had ruined her life and killed her identity as a mother of 3.
This is what I have left because of his greed, his selfishness, his complete disregard of and disrespect of others and life. But as you can see, I get nothing back. accept the reality that she is gone.
Tia Marie Brooks, Portia's sister, also spoke emotionally and requested that Smith Riley be handed the maximum sentence.
I have to deal with life without Portia, so he should deal with life without parole.
Then, Aaron, who Jaleel shot in the head, spoke to the court.
She's still here with us, and she will always be here. So she's our angel looking over us, helping to get through these hard times.
As if Smith Riley's crime was not outrageous enough, his reaction to his sentence was even more dramatic. During the trial on August 11th, 2021, Smith Riley pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and attempted murder. However, he later decided to withdraw his guilty plea against the advice of his attorneys.
Well, from the beginning, this was an emotional day for the families of both of these victims, but when Smith Riley decided to reverse his plea halfway through this sentencing hearing, they were shocked. And his attorneys were too, in part because it puts the death penalty back on the table.
Prior to receiving his sentence, Jaleel was heard apologizing in court as what appeared to be a last attempt at showing remorse. Additionally, Jaleel's attorney made a final attempt at saving face.
And he knows that he can't go back in time and undo what he did.
Despite the tears and the apologies, Judge Charles Kubicki, presiding over the case in Hamilton County Common Pleas Court, denied Smith Riley's request and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The 23-year-old monster that is currently rotting behind bars collapsed to the floor of the courtroom upon receiving his sentence. Smith Riley also received an additional sentence of 11 years for a related attempted murder charge. However bad you think Smith Riley's case was, it can't be compared to the infamous case of TJ Lane. This is TJ Lane, who's facing charges for multiple murders in Ohio. TJ Lane was a convicted American murderer who gained notoriety after committing a horrific crime at Chardon High School in Ohio. On February 27, 2012, the Ohio Police Department responded to multiple calls from teachers and students that there was an active shooter in the building.